Look, Mr. Zavlov, okay, we cannot cut any more budget. Yeah, we divided it into two parts, but you cut half my staff, man. You cut my editor, you cut all the writers, my ghost writers that I used to pretend like I'm talented. You cut them all, man. And now I don't even have a green screen anymore. How am I supposed to convince people of all these outlandish plot lines I've conceived in my amazing gigabrain? No, Zazov. No more budget cuts. I divided the damn thing into two parts, and you still fired 3/4 of my writing staff. How am I supposed to turn out a hit blockbuster like Justice League Dart Act 2, Part 2 on these conditions? Fine, yes, no, it's finished. Yes, very late, but it's finished. Just play it? No interlude? We can't even afford an introduction. We cannot afford an introduction. Fine, you know what? Cut the budget. Screw it, alright? Why don't you just go ahead and make this whole thing a tax write-off? No, sir, don't do that, please. No, we're playing it. There's no time to tax write it off. Bye. Alright, let's just get into this thing before he writes this whole thing off as a tax reduction. We're going to open on Grodd's throne. We see Gorilla Grodd sitting on his massive throne. It's inlaid with human skulls. He growls, "Where are they? The humans should have been here already." Suddenly, an ape blows into the room. It's the prison guard we saw earlier. He prostrates himself before Grodd, trembling. "Where are my humans, jailer? Their foul blood should have already soaked my floors. The apes wait for their vengeance." We hear howls from the apes in the audience. The jailer says, That's just it, my king. The humans have escaped. It was Bobo, the detective chimp. He helped them escape. He knocked me unconscious." Grodd stands from his throne, his face a mess of rage. "What?" The guard says, "They're gone." Grodd lets out a low growl. He stands, then holds up a hand. The jailer is lifted into the air by Grodd's telekinetics. "Lost them! Lost them! You are a traitor to apes!" The guard's body begins to twist in the air, squeezed by Grodd. His bones snap and his body bends in all sorts of wonky directions. Blood leaks from his eyes, ears, and nose. Then he simply pops into a pile of gore. Grodd lets the pile fall to the floor, and he screams with rage. "Find them!" We're going to cut to the underground base. We see Blue Beetle, Detective Chimp, Xanadu, Shade, and Element Woman all standing in an elevator, going down lower into the secret base that he led them to at the end of the last act. Blue Beetle says, "It started about 7 years ago. No one knows where the disease came from, but it swallowed Gotham in only a week. The rest of the world followed quickly. We are the lucky ones, the ones who are not mad. We are the survivors. A lot of good men died. A lot of my friends." He looks down at part of his costume, where we can see another piece of fabric is sewn. It's a yellow and blue star that doesn't match the rest of the outfit. The elevator dings and opens up. We can see a whole little city built inside of a subway system. Tents are set up with food. We can see cars being worked on. Guns are being cleaned. We see a couple of kids running back and forth, giggling in the hallways. It's an entire little civilization built into the underground subway systems. Xanadu says, "I must say, this is impressive." Ted Cord says, "Wait till you see the rest of it." He guides them through the open market and into a set of doors. Inside we can see a research lab. It's actually pretty nice. Shade looks around and says, "You're trying to find a cure." We can see genetic testing being done, even a few human specimens floating in like glass tubes or whatever. Ted Cord says, "It's a half-hearted effort at this point. We failed. We don't know why we are immune. We've all but given up. The only way we'll survive now is by hiding. There are no other options." Xanadu says, "What if there was another way?" Ted Cord says, "Trust me, I've considered it. The Flash runs this part of the country. Fighting him is suicide. He's the Flash. Outside of his territory isn't much better. There are worse warlords than him. There's nowhere for us to go. Nowhere is safe anymore." Xanadu says, "What about another world? Your world is extremely close to mine. I can draw upon your magic here. With some time, I could open up a gateway, a tear between realities. You and your followers could come back with us, back to our world." Ted Cord says,
That's possible? Xanadu nods. Yes. I'll need a couple hours at least, in a large space. Quiet as well if possible. My incantations require immense focus. Ted Cord says, I can get you that. There's an abandoned station not far from here. Only a 4-minute walk. I'll take you. Suddenly, a man rushes up to Ted. He's wearing a tattered parka, dyed blue. He has some sort of strange equipment tied on his back. We recognize him as Leonard Snart, the Captain Cold. He says, Sir, we've got a situation. Ted Cord says, Snart? What sort of situation? Leonard Snart says, There's a sandstorm, sir. Ted Cord says, And? Leonard Snart says, It's not natural. The Flash's entire army is coming this way. They brought their war machines. Ted Cord says, They found us. Ted grabs the first researcher he sees. Get this woman to the South Station, immediately. Detective Chimp says, We can fight. Shade nods. He's right. We can. Probably better than most of your men. Leonard Snart says, Good. Then you two and the monkey come with me. We'll have to buy them time. Detective Chimp walks up to Leonard. He says, You don't seem surprised by a talking monkey. Leonard Snart says, Yeah, I'd seen a couple of you before. Hard to be surprised after a while. We're going to cut to John Constantine. He's laying in a bed next to Zatanna. Zatanna looks over at him and says, John, your eyes are so distant. John shakes his head. Sorry, I don't remember how we got here. It's just I feel strange. Zatanna looks concerned. Why? Did I do something wrong? John says, No, it's just... I thought it was too nice. This is a dream, isn't it? I was asleep on the couch, not the bed. I remember that. Zatanna looks confused. I don't know what you're talking about. But sure, let it be a dream. Hopefully it's a good one. Constantine says, Yeah, that's the problem. He narrows his eyes. This is much too sweet to be one of my dreams. I only have nightmares these days. I take it that this isn't my dream at all. You must be the other one. I knew you felt off. Inverse Zatanna smiles coyly. You're sharp. I am the other one. Constantine says, I hear you killed me. Not bloody nice, you know. I don't know what your Constantine was like, but trust me, I don't die so easy. Inverse Zatanna says, I didn't kill you. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't. It was the green arrow that killed my Constantine, and I'm glad the arrow is dead. Inverse Zatanna snaps, and the dark lit bedroom changes to a nice French cafe. Zatanna says, Please, take a seat. We have a lot to speak about. John cautiously takes a seat. Inverse Zatanna says, I've been watching you and the other me. I think I figured out what's going on. You are a multiversal duplicate from a universe opposite our own. Am I in the ballpark? Constantine says, More or less. Inverse Zatanna says, I thought as much. You see, the thing is, you're not like my Constantine. Though I loved him, he had his flaws. He was weak and merciful to a fault. I could never get that little glimmer of darkness in him to flourish. That's what killed him in the end, all of his hopeless naivety. I should have known that it would. But you aren't like him. You're like me. Constantine says, I think you got me confused. Zatanna shakes her head. No, I don't. I see you perfectly, John. You're selfish, manipulative, and when you need to be, so brutal. I can read it on your face. You don't belong with them. You're one of us. Join me, John. The way I see it, it's a miracle that you're here. A second chance for me to fix my mistakes. Constantine says, not interested. I got a nice first-hand look at your friends. Makes me think you are not my type. Inverse Zatanna says, I think you're mistaken. I think you belong with us. With me. The Justice League will fail. They're doomed, John. Always have been. But you don't have to go down with them. I still love you. In my own way, I think I might love you more than the old one. I see myself in you, and all the things I liked in him. Constantine says, yeah, I've known too many people like you. You're cruel. You enjoy it when you make people hurt. You wouldn't help anyone unless it benefited you. I'm not like you. I'm not. Zatanna chuckles. Jesus, John, look in a mirror. Constantine says it again. I'm not like you. How many times do I have to say it? Inverse Zatanna shakes her head. Whatever helps you sleep at night. Oh, the dream is ending. I wish we had more time, but it doesn't matter. I'll be seeing you soon, John. Think it over. You know where you belong. I never stopped loving you, and I never will. Come to me. She vanishes in a puff of smoke, and the dream landscape vanishes. You see Constantine say, bloody hell. He wakes up on the couch where he had slept. We see Zatanna sitting at a coffee table in the same room. Her hair is still frizzy from having slept in the bed next to the couch. She says, you finally woke up. Do you have your magic attuned yet? Constantine says, yeah, finished last night. Zatanna says, good. The fight will be soon. Afterwards, we can figure out a way home. Constantine smiles a bit. I might have something for that. You were in my dreams last night. Zatanna says, gross, John. If that's your idea of a pickup line, you have a long way to go. Constantine shakes his head. No, you don't understand. It was really you. Or, I guess, the other you. She tried to convince me to run away with her, like this was some sort of bloody rom-com. Zatanna stands up. She really came to you? Constantine says, she did, and she was a fool for it. She's got what we need, Z. She was wearing a portal ring. Zatanna says, was it a true one, or one of the cheap copies? Constantine says, sure as hell looked real, and it was real old, that's for sure. Made of bronze, I think. Zatanna says, we have to get a hold of it. Constantine says, as you said, we're going to have to fight her anyway. We'll put her down, and we'll take the ring. Zatanna looks at him and says, I can trust you, right? Constantine looks confused. What in the bloody hell sort of talk is that? Zatanna says, you said it yourself. She gave you an offer. Constantine says, and you think I'd take it? Come on, Z, you know me better than that. Zatanna says, do I? Christ, John. I had you promise me that you wouldn't let my death get in the way of the greater good. You lied right to my face, and you knew you were doing it. Now you're telling me that she doesn't matter, and that you won't go with her. How can I trust that? Constantine says, this is different. That was different. Zatanna says, how? Constantine says, because that was you, love. She's not you. She's not my type. And I wouldn't let you go then, and I promise you, I won't let you go now. Nothing would make me do that. Together, we can kill her. We'll take that ring, and we'll escape. Zatanna nods her head. All right, I trust you. We're going to cut to Mad Earth. We see the war party mobilizing. Men and scrappy survivors are getting into vehicles which have been retrofitted for war. Large armor plates cover them. Many of them have like ramps on the front for knocking over vehicles or spikes. Amidst all the chaos, we see Elephant Woman and Shade. Element Woman and him are walking towards the vehicle. She looks over at him. You know, we could die in this. Shade says, yeah. Element Woman says, I like you. Shade smiles. I like you too. A little awkward tension passes between the two. Suddenly, Element Woman grabs Shade and kisses him again. It's deep and passionate. She opens her eyes, and we see Dr. Mist kissing her. We can see something brilliantly bright reflected in his eyes. She gasps and pulls away. However, when she does, we can see it's still Shade. He looks confused. What is it? Element Woman says, it was nothing. Just, my situation. My madness. Shade says, I see. Element Woman laughs. I'm sorry, it's just really awkward. I'm a nervous laugher. Shade smiles as the war party begins to depart. Shade says, nervous laughter. It's cute. Don't die. Element Woman says, likewise, Changing Man. They hop onto vehicles and they begin to mobilize into war. We see the entire war party pull out through a ramp onto the sand above. They line up. In the distance, we can see Flash's army growing closer and closer. We see Leonard Snart in a vehicle begin to approach the Flash's convoy. He raises up a white flag. The Flash's party comes to a stop. The Flash is in a vehicle at the front, which moves up away from the rest of the party towards where Captain Cold is parked with the white flag. It's a gigantic vehicle with a throne set at the top. The Flash sits in the throne. He pulls up so close enough to talk to Captain Cold. The Flash says, "If it isn't Captain Cold himself, I didn't know you were still alive." Captain Cold says, "We want a truce. We don't want to fight you. You will lose men, and so will we. It benefits no one." The Flash says, "Of course we're gonna lose men. It wouldn't be fun if we didn't. Captain Cold, you used to have some frostbite. No longer, I suppose." Captain Cold says, "Very well. It's war then." He turns his car around and drives back to the other group. He pulls up next to Ted Cord. Cold says, "It's war." He activates the cold device on his back, and we can see blue liquid begin to condense in a glass canister. He holds up his frost gun. Blue Beetle says, "It wasn't your fault. Nothing to be done. I guess it always had to be this way. Let's put up a good fight." He throws off his brown duster, revealing his comic book suit. It's a little tattered, but it's still holding up. He holds up his hand and points it forward. The cars all race towards the Flash's army. We can see men firing pistols and machine guns. The Flash's men begin to return fire as well. We can see men getting killed on both sides as the two armies approach for a clash. 4 of the outside Flash cars drop down metal Tesla coils. We see King Flash stand from his throne and begin to run around the caravan as fast as possible. The lightning from his footsteps turns the sand to glass. He builds up a static charge, then touches the Tesla coil. Lightning's arches between each of the coils, meeting in the middle. We see a man in metal armor slam a button. He's immediately electrified, cooked from the inside out, but as he presses the button, all of the electricity fires forward like a cannon. It shoots down one of the vehicles from the good guy's side, lighting it up into a giant fireball. Then the two armies clash. They're going to battle for a while in a chaotic, big blowout action scene. We see vehicles exploding, shooting at each other, men jumping from vehicle to vehicle. Picture something like Mad Max Fury Road. That's obviously what I'm going for with this sequence. This is probably going to be the biggest fight in the film. A little early to blow our load here, but I think this is the best place to have a big set piece right at the end of the second act. The third act set piece is going to be a lot more intimate and down to earth, especially compared to this nonsense that's about to happen. This might be the best action scene I've ever written, so hold on to your pants, guys. We see Element Woman smash a car by forming a fist out of sand. Shade splits one of the Flash's vehicles in two with the Madness vest, before killing a goon jumping off of it with a Madness dagger. We see Detective Chimp jump onto the side of a moving vehicle with a sword in his hand. One of the Flash's goons sees him and says, "Is that a fucking monkey?" Detective Chimp says, "I'm an ape." He stabs the first goon with the Sword of Night. His body begins to crumble in the charcoal. The driver says, "Fuck!" He swerves the car in the sand. He tries to shake Detective Chimp loose. Detective Chimp falls backwards, barely grabbing a hold of the side of the truck. We can see another truck full of Flash gang members pulling up next to him. They're loading weapons. Suddenly, a man in blue lands on top of the roof. One of the goons immediately is hit by something and falls off the side of the van with a hole in his stomach. We see Blue Beetle holding his laser pistol. He throws grenades behind them and they land on another vehicle which explodes in blue fire. He smiles goofily. "I've got you, talking monkey." He holds his hand up into the air and grabs onto a cord. It's being pulled by a little blue drone. He drops a grenade, blowing up the vehicle that he was just on top of. Detective Chimp swings around to the driver and stabs him with the Sword of Night. Again, he turns to charcoal. The car swerves off and explodes in the distance as Detective Chimp jumps off it just in time. We see Captain Cold freezing a couple of goons before taking a shot to the arm. He holds a hand to the wound as blood begins to leak. He freezes the man who shot him, turning him into solid ice. Suddenly, the Flash runs through the frozen man, shattering him. The Flash says, "There you are, and I was thinking you were gonna leave me out in the cold." Captain Cold says, "Even as a madman, you still make the quips." He launches a freeze ray towards the Flash, who dodges it easily. He says, "What can I say? I'm nostalgic about this fight, but you won't be." He holds up his fist, and we can see that there are nails worked into the gloves. It's a spiked knuckle. He rushes forward and begins to punch Leonard Snart over and over again at the speed of light. By the time he's finished, Captain Cold just stands there. His blue parka is punctured with thousands of little holes. Blood begins to run from each one of them, and he falls over to the ground. The tank on his back explodes, sending freezing mist everywhere. It freezes his body and the sand around it. The camera continues to follow the Flash as he runs through the fight. There's a group of soldiers fighting in the middle of the melee. Flash soldiers and Blue Beetle's men, all battling. The Flash runs behind the first Blue Beetle soldier. He snaps his neck so violently that it twists the head all the way around. He moves to the next sane man he sees. He punches this one in the face with the spiked knuckles. They punch right into the man's brain and then pull out. He's going so fast that we don't even see blood leave, except for a single drop carried on the spiked knuckles as if held there by glue. We follow the Flash again as he begins to speed through the battlefield in slow motion. Everything is, stopped around him, sort of like those Quicksilver scenes. He runs by a man and slits his throat with a knife without even slowing down. Finally, he picks a man up without slowing down and throws him into the exploding car that Blue Beetle detonated earlier. The Flash stops, taking a breath. We see the man with the slit throat clutch a hand to it desperately as blood begins to run out. The man with the hole in his head simply falls over dead. The explosion rips apart the body of the other man. The Flash has unleashed untold chaos in only a second. He takes a deep breath. I missed this. We're going to cut to the south subway tunnel. We see Madame Xanadu sitting on the floor. A pentagram of magical energy surrounds her. We can see something sparking in the air in front of her. It fizzes out, then sparks up back to life again. She's trying to open the way, but it's not there yet. Around her, we can see divination Toro cards floating. A single card floats on top. We can see it's the Hanged Man. We're going to cut to Grodd. We see him entering the ruined Star Labs building. One of the ape guards next to him says, "They were here, sir. We caught them on camera." Grodd says, "I will see to this." He bursts into the laboratory. We can see Mala and the Brain waiting for them. Grodd's men quickly surround them. Behind them, we can see the portal. It's still hot from having just activated. Steam is echoing off it. We can tell Grodd notices. "Where did they go?" Grodd asks. Mala says, "Out of your reach." Grodd says, "This device. I know it from when I was here. You opened a gateway to another world." The Brain says, "They are gone." Grodd turns on the Brain in the jar with a snarl. He holds his hand up and the Brain comes floating off the ground and comes towards him. Grodd takes a deep sniff of the Brain. "Human. This is what it took for you to survive. Pathetic. Open the portal or I will destroy this puny thing keeping you alive." The Brain says, "I am ready to die, tyrant. You do not frighten me." Grodd says, "I wasn't talking to you." Grodd looks past him to Mala. "Open it or he dies." Grodd pulls the Brain closer. We can see his glass tank is beginning to crack. Small amounts of the liquid leaks out. Mala says, "We don't know where the portal leads. It'll be a blind jump. I can hold the portal open once you're through." Grodd looks at him and says, "Do it." Mala reactivates the portal. It hums to life. We can see him typing in the same code as before. The portal stabilizes and Grodd approaches it. "Close it behind me, and my apes will see you dead." The Brain is dropped to the floor. He lets out a little moan. Grodd jumps into the portal. He lands in the middle of the chaotic melee. He sees the Flash kill a man in front of him. We're back where we were just a second ago. Grodd looks surprised, then excited. "The Flash! What a treat! I'm gonna get to kill you all over again." Flash turns around and sees him. He smiles. "That's funny. I was gonna say the same thing." The Flash begins running around in circles, forming a massive tornado of sand in the middle of the battlefield. It surrounds Grodd on all sides. Sand is whipped up in a frenzy, forming a massive sandstorm in the tornado. We can see vehicles and men being pulled in, then thrown off to the side. Some are shredded by the sand. Grodd stands in the middle. He looks from side to side confused. We can hear Flash's laughter echoing through the storm. "This power. You were never this fast before." "You're right. But when you're the only speedster left, you don't have to share the speed force." He appears in front of Grodd. "What's wrong, monkey? Scared?" Grodd takes a swing at him, but the Flash simply vanishes. "You missed me." The Flash seems to be appearing around Grodd all at once. He appears in one place, then disappears so fast it's like he's everywhere. Grodd keeps trying to attack him, and the Flash keeps letting out quips. "Gotta be quicker than that." "Boy, Grodd, you really lost your touch." "Whoop, you got close that time." "Oh, narrow miss. You almost got me." Grodd yells, Fight me, coward! The Flash appears in front of him. What do you think I'm doing, you stupid ape? You know the funny thing about sandstorms. When you get them going fast enough, it's like sandblasting. Yeah, it's actually so bad, it'll peel the flesh right off your bones. We're gonna have so much fun here. Grodd begins to desperately look from side to side. He tries to punch the Flash, but his fist passes right through him, as if the Flash is phasing. Finally, the Flash grabs him by the neck and picks him up from the floor with incredible strength. Grodd tries again and again to punch him, but it keeps passing through the Flash as he phases in certain spots. The Flash holds him up, then shoves him into the sandstorm. The sand rushes by, and we can hear Grodd scream. It's almost drowned out by the Flash's laughter. We can see the skin from Grodd's body begin to peel off. We're going to cut to the Shadow Dimension. We see Dorothy sitting on a large table with Upside Down Man. A pile of stone and dirt sits on the table. Dorothy squeezes her eyes and holds hands out. It's clear she's concentrating hard. Eventually, she lets her hands flop to the side. I can't do it. Upside Down Man tilts his head to the side. You'll get it eventually. In the old days, you could create mountains from the earth and entire planets from cosmic dust. Just as I can destroy the earth, you can build it up. He holds up a stone in his hand, and it immediately shatters into 10 pieces. Dorothy says, I don't know. I've always been able to make my friends real, but move the earth? I've never done that. Upside Down Man says, I don't know what my life did to make herself reborn in your form. Your powers may still be coming in. Something to do with what she did. With time, you will unlock your full abilities, your full power. Dorothy says, Where did you come from? Upside Down Man makes a grimace. I never showed the other light this. I think sometimes I was too closed off to her. Maybe that's why she left. I don't know. But I can show you. Maybe this will make you understand me like she never did. He reaches his hand out and touches Dorothy's forehead. Her eyes grow wide and we see blackness fill them, until her eyes are completely black. We zoom into that darkness and it consumes the screen. All we see is darkness as Upside Down Man narrates. I remember when I first woke up. I was in the darkness. It was perfect, a void of absolute emptiness. It was all I ever knew. We see Upside Down Man floating in that darkness. He's curled into a ball like a fetus. It's a funny thing. I was alone. I had no concept of others, yet I was still so lonely. My only friend was the shadows that surrounded me, but they never spoke. Not really. We see the living shadow approach Upside Down Man in real life. It almost nuzzles him affectionately, like a dog. Upside Down Man says, I didn't know what my purpose was until she arrived. We see Upside Down Man floating in that void. In the distance, a bright light appears. As it floats closer, we see it's a naked woman. Her hair is a bright gold, and her skin glows yellow with light. She looks up and sees him. She has 4 eyes. Upside Down Man says, You are so beautiful. I'd never seen a thing like it. And then you spoke. We hear Light say, Are you real? Upside Down Man says, I am. She reaches out a hand tentatively, and Upside Down Man touches it. An explosion rips between them. It's the Big Bang. We see nebulas being created around them, gases forming into stars, planets being compacted by the explosion, the whole universe expanding out infinitely, and them at the center of it all, creating it and destroying it. We see the black fade from Dorothy's eyes. Upside Down Man looks almost sullen. I don't know why she left. I guess I wasn't enough for her. She was enough for me. But Light had to make life to amuse herself. The truth is, I don't want to hurt things. I wanted to let her have her human creations. She wouldn't believe me, though. She didn't trust me. Dorothy says, I'm sorry. Upside Down Man says, You know what the worst part was? Light fell for a human. She left me for him.
And then she went and placed the curse of longing upon me. She sealed me here. I'm sure she only wanted to save her precious life. She feared my retribution. It wouldn't have come. She probably didn't even realize she left me in the place I was before, alone, in a world of darkness. But that curse is broken now. You broke it when you came here. You freed me, and I don't have to be alone anymore. We can see it all together. Everything this universe has to offer. Dorothy's eyes softened for the strange, ancient creature. Perhaps she misjudged him. Maybe there's more to him than his ugly facade and sharp teeth. Maybe in the end, he's just a man. Upside Down Man says, however, I will not make the same mistakes twice. I'm going to rend humanity from the multiverse, pluck the weed from the garden. Then all will be as it was. Dorothy says, no, don't do that. I know the old life left you, and I'm sorry for that. But humanity can be so good. They have lives, and just like you, they love things. Upside Down Man says, they're a plague. We never could see it. I suspect they are destined to bring calamity on themselves in the end. Their choices fracture the very reality of our worlds, Dorothy. Just look. He holds his hand out, and we see nothing but blackness mixed in with swirling colors, a single golden line. Upside Down Man says, when it was just us, the world was beautiful. It was peaceful, serene. Things came and things died. You rose mountains, and I gradually weathered them away. You made stars, and I let them go supernova. Our work together created nebulas, something new, something incredible. And then you made life, and it did what it does. It changed on its own over time. Soon it gained sentience. Suddenly that single golden line cracks, shattering like broken glass. It shatters again and again. The world looks like a broken mirror now. It keeps splintering and shattering. Soon there's so many cracks we can't even keep up. Their choices branched the world. They've shattered the universe. And the more choices they make, the worse it gets. It's only a matter of time, Light, before they shatter it all. We see the universe fall into pieces, shattering in a great explosion. Everything we built would vanish, and we would be back to that dark void. I don't want to go back there. Dorothy says, please, you say you love me. I like the humans. My friends and my family are human. Give them a chance. Don't destroy them. For me. Upside Down Man looks off into the distance. Yes, well, we have time before the shattering is complete, I suppose. It could wait, if that's really what you want. But I warn you, Light, the time will come when they make choices that harm you. It is their way. They will betray you. It was them that led you astray before, but it was also them that led you to me. That's their way. He gestures to a glass case sitting in the corner of the room. We can see a skeleton in it. On one of the fingers is a portal ring. Upside Down Man says, this one was a magi from a world alternative to your home. One of the Shatterings. He created a staff capable of channeling the magic of possibility and the multiverse into a single point. It was that staff that allowed me to see you. The holes it ripped in reality broke a piece of the curse upon me. I was able to communicate with you through it. And when it shattered in the hands of your friend, I was able to draw you here. I owe a lot to him. It's almost a shame that I killed him before I realized what he was. A shame, but he has my thanks from the afterlife. We're going to cut to Dorothy's room. We see Miss and Dorothy sitting in the room. They've shut the door and are whispering to each other. Dorothy says, I saw it, Mist. It was a portal ring, just like the one Xanadu used to use. Dr. Mist says, do you think you can get it? Dorothy says, it shouldn't be hard. It's just a little case. It's just in a little case. It is in his room, though. Dr. Mist says, we don't have a choice. You need to get that ring so we can escape. Dorothy says, I'm worried, Mist. I'm scared we're making the wrong choice. I'm leaving him again. The way he talked, I think it broke him before. Dr. Mist says, that thing is not your friend. It is an ancient evil. It was locked here for a reason, Dorothy. Just think of what it did to me. Tore me apart. Dorothy says, I'm not so sure he's evil. I think he's just sad. Lonely, maybe. I think he wants to get better. I feel bad for him. Dr. Mist says, even if he does want to get better, he is dangerous and unstable. He can't be trusted. You don't want to stay here, do you, Dorothy? Trapped in this place with him forever? I guess not, Dorothy says. But I'm worried what he'll do if I leave. Dr. Mist says, you said he was trapped before you came. If you leave, maybe he'll be trapped once more. If not, we'll find another way. A version of you did it once before. That's what you said, right? Dorothy says, yeah. Okay. I don't have a choice. I'll do it. I'll get the ring. Dr. Mist says, you're doing the right thing, Dorothy. You're so brave. We can do this. We can escape. We're going to cut back to Mad Earth. We see Flash pull Grodd's body out of the storm. All that's left is a tattered mess of bloody flesh and bone. The Flash lets it drop to the floor. We see the Flash standing over Grodd's shredded corpse. His hands are still drenched in blood. The storm dissipates around him. Suddenly, he shifts his head to the side. A bullet strikes the sand in front of him. The Flash turns and we see a sniper off in the distance. The sniper looks up from his rifle and we see the Flash standing behind him. You missed. This is a little reference to the Suicide Squad game. Figured I'd throw shade since I'm doing my own evil Flash here. The Flash laughs. The man turns around out of his skin. He sees the Flash and starts to run away. The Flash simply shakes his head and watches. He starts to jog in place behind the man sarcastically. Then appears right in front of him after the man's gotten like 100 feet away. King Flash says, "Where are you gonna go? You run pretty fast, you know. You ever thought about running a marathon? Hey, I've got an idea. Let's run one right now." He picks the man up by the arm and begins to run in circles non-stop. We see lightning jolting all around him. When he stops running, the man is nothing more than a burnt severed arm in the Flash's hand. Another warrior runs over the dune, firing bullets at the Flash. The Flash rolls his eyes almost sarcastically and simply points his finger. Lightning arcs off it and blows a hole through the man's chest. Suddenly, Shade appears. We can see him kill two of Flash's men in the background. Flash notices him and smiles. Finally, someone interesting. He runs up to Shade. Shade forms two daggers from the Madness Vest and throws them. Flash dodges them both easily. Please, you're gonna have to do better than that. Shade forms a ring of madness around himself, shooting it out like a frisbee. The Flash limbos underneath it like it's a game. The Flash turns to fight him again, and in his place stands the Flash. But not the one we've been seeing, a far kinder one with friendly eyes. He waves nicely and smiles. He does finger guns at someone we can't see. The Flash is momentarily surprised. Suddenly, a colorful burst of light appears from the illusion. A dagger flown at the Flash. He dodges it to the side, but it's just a second too slow. We see a small trickle of blood leave a small, almost paper-cut sized cut on his shoulder. The Flash looks down, surprised. He nods his head. That's better. What are you? I've never seen one like you before. Shade says, I'm a madman. Flash says, oh, is that all? Welcome to the club. I guess I'll... We hear a shout, Flash! The Flash looks over and we see a man on top of a dune. He wears a long duster tattered with streaks of red. He wears a necklace crafted from several gears. He wears a half-shattered mask, a mask we recognize as Deadshot's. We can see it's Will Smith Deadshot. Now I'm gonna admit, this is a total fan fiction, like, dream cast. I just thought it would be such a good gag to bring back Will Smith Deadshot for this random-ass cameo. This would never happen in real life, so this is a scene I could easily cut, but I really enjoy it for what it is. Deadshot says, finally, I get my revenge. He twirls out his hands, revealing his two arm guns. He holds out the blasters towards the Flash. The Flash awkwardly looks over at him and then rolls his eyes again. I'll get to you in a second. I'm busy with this one. Then Deadshot says, you must remember me. King Flash says, shut up. I'm dealing with this one first. I'll get to you after. Deadshot fires a shot right towards the Flash's head, which the Flash easily dodges. You killed my wife. You murdered my daughter. I trained for... Suddenly, the Flash is right in front of him. His hand held out to Deadshot's jaw. I told you to shut the fuck up! He rips the jaw free from Deadshot's face. Blood pours out immediately, and he falls to the floor dead. King Flash tosses the jawbone away, then almost immediately appears in front of Shade again. Sorry about that. Kids these days have no manners. I swear it's been one thing after another today. Alright though, wouldn't trade it for the world. Had a lot of fun. Shade throws more colorful knives at the Flash as he speaks. The Flash dodges them and keeps talking. You know, for a madman, you sure don't seem to grasp the definition of insanity, throwing the same fucking attacks at me over and over again, expecting a different outcome. The Flash runs and punches him, sending him rolling to the ground. He's hurt, clutching his chest. King Flash says, I'm a fucking god! I'm an immortal! But you just keep throwing your little attacks. See if it saves you. Maybe you'll hit me. Who knows? He laughs manically. Shade tries once more to throw a dagger of magic at the Flash. Flash almost sarcastically dodges it. Ooh, guess not. Flash points a finger and lightning launches towards Shade. Shade quickly forms a shield from the Madness Fest, catching it. Suddenly, Flash is on him. He kicks Shade in the side of the head, sending him back another 6 feet, rolling to the floor. Shade sits up, reeling from the injury. We can see blood running from his nose and ear, a large gash along the side of his face. We can see Flash appear behind him. He studies the Madness Fest. Yeah, I like this. I'm taking it. He rips it off Shade and throws it over himself. We can see the shapes of the Madness Fest begin to move. Suddenly, sanity returns to the Flash's eyes. He looks down at his blood-soaked hands. Oh god. He throws up. He quickly runs up and grabs one of Deadshot's guns from the sand. He points it at his own head. I'm sorry. He pulls the trigger. Flash's brains scatter onto the sand behind him. His body falls to the floor, and the shapes on the Madness Fest stop moving. The whole battlefield seems to still. All eyes are on the Flash's body. Then cheers rise up from the sane survivors. The last of the Flash's goons turn to leave, running or driving off in their vehicles. We can see them running over each other in their desperation to escape. Shade limps to his feet, pulling the Madness Vest off of Flash's body. As he begins to put it back on, we can see Nightshade, rotting like a corpse, smiling at him in the distance. She mouths, "Be seeing you soon." As the Madness Vest slips over Shade's shoulders, she vanishes. We're going to cut to a propane supply store. We can see Constantine looking up at the store. This is where your guy is? Lex Luthor says, I didn't bring you for the commentary, but yes, he's one of the last of us still living. Constantine says, if not for the company, why'd you bring us? We can see that Zatanna is standing next to him. Lex says, it's simple. I don't trust you two, especially her. I could have left you with Mirror Master, but he wouldn't have the gall to do what needs to be done if I'm right about you. He wouldn't kill you, but I would. So be good. He pushes open the door to the store. It's filled with rows of propane and fire pits. We can see some pear burners on the wall. I don't know if y'all have those outside of Texas, but we use them for burning cactus. It's like a little flamethrower, like a handheld one that you keep in your house for like burning brush or cactus. I think they're common outside of here, but who the hell knows? It's a small store. An overweight man behind the counter with a balding head of hair sits behind the counter. He looks up lazily. He notices Lex. What the fuck? Lex? Lex says, yes. The man says, you've come for me. You've got something good. It's happening, isn't it? You're going for it again. The man is almost giddy with excitement. Lex says, I am. And you came for me. You need something from me. You wouldn't have come if you didn't. You don't like me. It's got to be good this time. Lex Luthor says, we've got their weaknesses. The Legion of Evil dies. We can see excitement in the mystery man's eyes, almost hunger. The man says, but wait. You think I'm a liability. You said it before. Fuck, I am a liability. You wouldn't have come if it was just that. There's more. Spill the beans. Lex says, it's the Martian. He's weak to fire. The man lets out a laugh. That xenofuck burns. He laughs again. We can hear the song This Fire by Franz Ferdinand begin to play, which is a banger, by the way. You should check it out, because listening to it would sell this scene hard. The man flips a switch on his desk, and a secret wall behind him begins to swap out as the beats of the music play. It reveals a secret room. In the center of the wall,
We can see a suit. Firefly's suit. We can see a wall with red tape running between different pictures of aliens. We can see UFOs in crop circles. Pictures of Martian Manhunter and Superman. Firefly says, things used to be fucking good before those Xeno shit showed up. It was the fucking aliens that caused all this bullshit. That Martian Manhunter. He's one of the worst. He slips his hand into the glove of the suit. He picks up a flamethrower gun, then test fires it. A bright flash of fire launches forward. The man giggles. I'm gonna burn that fucker alive! Lex says, I take it you're in? Firefly says, oh yeah, I'm in. We see Constantine lean into Zatanna to whisper in her ear, Jesus Christ, and I thought Batman was crazy. Zatanna says, at least he's on our side. We're gonna cut to the Justice League hideout. We see Firefly looking around the place as if he's nostalgic. Lex Luthor approaches Mirror Master. Lex asks, Sports Master? Mirror Master says, he's not coming out of retirement. Lex says, it's what I expected. He got out a long time ago. Frankly, I don't blame him. Mirror Master says, yeah, but you got Firefly. We can do this. He turns to the rest of the Justice League. Mirror Master says, tomorrow's the day. We're going to take those assholes down once and for all. The room cheers. Mirror Master says, if you have a god, pray to him and hope he listens. For the rest of you, take the night off. Get ready. Settle any affairs you have to. Tomorrow, we fight. Again, the room wraps up into cheers. Everyone seems excited and happy. Except for Flatline. She looks over nervously at Chemo. She knows what comes next if they do win the fight. She leans over to whisper to him. Hey, want to get out of here for a bit? Chemo says, why not? We're going to cut to Dr. Mist. We see Dr. Mist surrounded on all sides by mist. He looks around in confusion. He doesn't remember how he got here. The mist in front of him begins to sway and move. Something pushes through it. A shape. It's vaguely human, as if it's the outline of a person that should be there. Instead, it's only empty space with mist surrounding it. The shape whispers in a voice. Mist. They need you. Dr. Mist says, what? What are you? The shape says, I can't let you go. I'm sorry. I've seen it. You'll be needed. The next part is hard, but you'll survive. I've seen to it. Dr. Mist says, who are you? The shape says, I love you. I've always loved you. The shape vanishes, the mist folding back into an empty void. The mist begins to grow thicker around Dr. Mist, closing in on him on all sides. Dr. Mist cries out again, who are you? He sits up, awake in bed. Dr. Mist looks over, and we see Upside Down Man staring at him. Dr. Mist says, are you here to kill me? Upside Down Man says nothing. Dr. Mist laughs, can you kill me? I would welcome it at this point. Upside Down Man says, I am afraid not. What was done to you is beyond me. That is a rare thing, you know. Dr. Mist says, and what was that? Upside Down Man says, I could tell you, but I won't. You should remember, you were the one, the lucky one, perhaps the luckiest one of all. Dr. Mist says, what do you want? What are you after? Upside Down Man says, what I've always been after. Her. I love her. And I should hate you. I should despise you more than any other for what you did. But I don't. I find myself respecting you. You might be the only one who understands the burden of this existence alone, of immortality in a world where no one else can be with you. It's funny that it's you, of all people, who understands me. There's something ironic in that. Dr. Mist says, what are you talking about? Upside Down Man says, it doesn't matter anymore. I've made up my mind. Do not attempt to take her from me again. Don't think I don't know you're planning something. You're always planning something, humans. There will be consequences. Upside Down Man turns and leaves, disappearing into the shadows. We see Dr. Mist let out a breath. He looks over at Dorothy, nervous. We're going to cut to the Gotham Aquarium. We see Flatline and Chemo moving past exhibits of fish and other sea lives. It's the same aquarium from the Suicide Squad 4, but it's not in disrepair. In fact, it looks very pretty and clean. It's clearly closed for the day, but somehow Flatline and Chemo have gotten in. Flatline says, do you remember our first date? Chemo says, how could I forget? Flatline says, well, it was right here. Chemo looks confused. No, it wasn't. Flatline says, oh, come on. It was here. You took me around to see the fish and the dolphins. It was very romantic. Chemo says, I did take you on a date here, but it wasn't our first. Our first was the Central City Museum. Flatline says, that wasn't a date. Chemo says, sure it was. We looked around at the museum, all the artifacts, we talked, we hung out. Flatline says, you were robbing it and I was stopping you. Chemo says, that's when I decided I liked you. It was a date. Hell, I robbed the place just to get your attention in the end. Flatline says, all that might be true, but it wasn't a date. Chemo says, whatever you say. The two of them stop in front of a reef tank. We can see coral reef and colorful fish swirling around. The two of them are silhouetted against it. Flatline holds out a hand without thinking. As if on instinct, Chemo reaches out to grab it, but then stops, just shy. They can't touch, and they know it. The reality of the situation closes back in. Chemo says, so tomorrow's the big day. Flatline says, I know. Chemo says, we never finished talking about it. Flatline says, about what? Chemo says, Nakia, you know about what comes after. Flatline says, that's because we're not talking about it. Chemo says, I want to go. It's my time. It's so cold like this. Everything is so off. I feel wrong. I don't belong here. I'm supposed to be somewhere else. I don't know. If we win, I'm begging you, Nakia. Let me go. Please. Flatline says, it's a cruel thing to ask of me. I don't have any family. You're everything I have, and We hear a large thunk as a knife sticks into Flatline's side. She looks down with surprise. We can see massive amounts of red blood begin to stain her white outfit. The music swells to a sinister score. Flatline stumbles back. An ominous thumping theme begins to play, in line with footsteps in the distance. Flatline looks down, blood on her hand. What? Matthew. She stumbles back. Chemo looks panicked. Nakia! We hear the footsteps echoing closer, and a voice echoes from down the hall. You were stupid to come here alone. I've been waiting. Suddenly, bathed in the light of the blue aquarium tank, we see Black Canary. Her face wrapped with grief and anger. Her eyes are dark and full of rage. Large black bags rest under them. She says, you took everything I love from me, and I'm gonna make you suffer. There's no one to help you now. Just you and me. Flatline struggles to her feet. We can see tons of blood dripping from the wound. It forms a puddle at her feet. It's bad. Flatline says, is this about Green Arrow? 'Cause he had it coming, you know. Flatline pulls her knife rope from her belt. She begins to spin it. We can see more blood drip to the floor next to her as she moves. She winces in pain, then looks up. His heart beat for a solid minute after I pulled it out of his chest. Pretty damn impressive. Bring it on, bitch. I'll make it 2 for 2. Black Canary screams, and the tanks shatter. Flatline is sent back into the wall, pushing the dagger in deeper. Water begins to flood across the room, along with flopping fish. Flatline struggles up to her feet. Her ears are ringing, and we can see blood running from them. Blood fills the water around her, like a shark attack. Chemo's ghost is trying to shout something, but she can't hear it from the ringing. Suddenly, Black Canary punches her hard. Flatline stumbles back again, blood running from split lips. She twirls her knife rope and swings it, catching Canary on the arm, leaving a small cut. Canary catches the dagger and cuts the rope with her own knife. It clatters to the water below, sinking down. Flatline is without a weapon. Canary rushes at Flatline, grabbing her by the neck and strangling her, squeezing tighter and tighter. We can see the life beginning to leave Flatline's eyes. She tries to fight by punching, but she's too weak. She's lost too much blood. In the background, we can see Chemo struggling to pick up the broken knife from the water. We see him try to grab it. It passes right through his fingers, as if he wasn't there. He snarls, pick it up, he tells himself. In the background, we can see Canary strangling Flatline against the wall. She's using the knife rope chain. Chemo screams once more and finally manages to pick up the knife. He throws it, and it flies straight into Canary's leg. Canary screams and turns around. She sees nothing. She's confused for a second and lets the rope go slack. We see Flatline pull the knife from her own side and stab it into Canary's back. She kicks the leg out from underneath Canary and spins around her, pinning them both to the floor. Flatline holds her in a judo hold
and shoves Canary's head into the water. She sits on top of Canary and holds her head in the water as Canary fights. We can see Canary trying to scream, but it's no use underwater. Bubbles gurgle out, and we can even see the tiles shatter from the power of her scream, even underwater. Flatline lets out a scream of her own as she continues to hold the head underwater. Then, finally, Flatline picks up Canary's head and slams it down onto a shard of broken glass. We can see it slices right through Canary's throat. Canary stops struggling and dies, blood seeping out around her. Flatline floats back into the water, bloody and beaten. We can see blood floating off her wound in the water around her. For a cool visual, I think it'd be really cool if it floats out like a pulse next to her, like forming a zigzag, until it flatlines. We see Kimo's ghost appear next to her. Hey, are you okay? Flatline says, gonna need help. She struggles to her feet again and tries to reach her phone, which is sitting on a bench where she left it earlier. She manages to get to the contacts and press the Mirror Master contact. We're gonna cut to Mirror Master. We see Mirror Master in a cemetery. He bends before a tombstone and leaves some flowers. We can see its golden glider's grave. He says, I need some advice. I don't know who else to talk to. Tomorrow is the day. We're going to try again. Lex asked me to do something, and I'm not sure if I can. The thing is, I want to kill Supergirl, like he asked. I want to do it so bad. It's like fire consuming my whole being. I hate her, yet Bruce warned me. Once you travel this path, you can't leave it. I swore to myself I would never take a life, that I wouldn't be like those I fought. I knew you would tell me not to, but... His phone rings. He looks down and we see it's Flatline calling. Mirror Master picks it up. Nakia, what is it? We're going to cut back to the Gotham Aquarium. She says, help. Gotham Aquarium. She falls to the floor and splashes in the water. She's passed out. The phone flops to the floor. We hear the song Flatline by the Himalayas begin to play. The blood surrounding her in a halo. Kimo screaming next to her body. A montage begins to play. We see Mirror Master run into the room, splashing into the water. We don't know how long it's been. He tries to pick her up, and blood drips off her body. As the song continues to play, we're going to see a montage of the Justice League preparing for their fight. It looks as if some time has passed. We see Mirror Master washing blood off his hands. He looks disconcerted. The rest of the Justice League each pick up their signature weapon. We see Firefly put on his suit as the song continues to play. With the blood washed from his hands, we see Mirror Master approach a spear made of kryptonite, one that Lex made via Firestorm. He sighs and then picks up the spear. He's made up his mind. We see Dorothy Spinner studying the skeleton in Upside Down Man's trophy room. We see the portal ring there. She starts to slowly open the case. She's gonna take it. We see Madame Xanadu open the portal between worlds at last. It looks like a tear in the world itself, and she struggles to hold it open. The survivors of the battle begin to enter it en masse, unsure of what waits on the other side. We see a shot of Blue Beetle entering the portal. For a few frames, we see shattered lines like a broken mirror reflected in his mask. We get a few shots of the Inverse Justice League, the Legion of Evil, preparing for the hunt. They arm themselves with their signature weapons. We linger on Zatanna for a moment. She plays with the portal ring in her finger. She looks sad. Lastly, we see Upside Down Man sitting on his throne. He makes a little bird, and it comes to life. It looks the same as the one Dorothy created earlier. He laughs as it flies around the room. After a few beats of its little wings, it turns to ash and falls to the floor. Upside Down Man's laugh turns to a frown. Nothing he makes lives. He's a destroyer. He looks down at the ground where the dust created by the bird's death lies. He looks sad. All of our plot lines are drawing near their end as the montage ends. Everything is coming to a head in our third act, and all of our subplots are nearing their end. And that is the end of Act 2, which I split into two parts. I think you can see why the single episode would have been ridiculously long, like way too long to be practical. So hopefully y'all enjoyed this. Let me know what you thought in the comments. I'm going to the outro.
And that's how the script goes. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I sure as hell didn't enjoy making it. This part took me so long. I'm sorry for all the delays. The third act, I would say it's going to be quicker, but I actually think it's going to take me a little longer. Maybe not as long as this time, but I'm still writing some quick rewrites on that and just setting some things up. So you should see the Get Out Guys really soon, though. That's almost done. Probably another episode of Stormlight before that. Speaking of, writing a Stormlight Archives TV show. It's a new writing series for me. New franchise, taking a little risk. Check it out if you haven't seen it yet. It's right there. If you're looking for something more DC related, the Get Out Guys is going to go here when it comes out. But for now, this is Thunderbolts 2, if you haven't watched that yet. All my cape shit. It's there. Alright, I'll see y'all in the next one. Remember to like and subscribe. I've been Bjorn the Movie Man, dude, person.